राम जय जय राम जानकी जीवन श्री राम जय जय राम जानकी जीवन दीनोद्धरणा राम हरे जय मारुति सेवितवा दीनोद्धरणा राम हरे जय मारुति सेवितवा जय जय राम जय राम जानकी जीवन जय जय राम जय राम जानकी जीवन श्री राम जय राम जानकी जीवन श्री राम जय राम जानकी जीवन दीनोद्धरणा राम हरे जय मारुति सेवितवा दीनोद्धरणा राम हरे जय मारुति सेवितवा जय जय राम जय राम जानकी जीवन जय जय राम जय राम जानकी जीवन श्री राम जय राम जानकी जीवन श्री राम जय राम जानकी जानकी जीवन जानकी जीवन सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै शांति शांति। We are going to chant chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita, verses 54 to 64. Bhagavad Gita chanting verses, chapter 2, verses 54 to 64. Arjuna uvacha स्थित प्रज्ञस्य का भाषा समाधिस्तस्य केशव स्थितधि किं प्रभाषेत किमासीत व्रजेत किम् श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रजहाति यदा कामान् सर्वान् पार्थमनोगतान् आत्मन्येवात्मना तुष्टः स्थितप्रज्ञस्तदोच्यते दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनाः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतरागभयक्रोधः स्थितधीर्मुनिरुच्यते यः सर्वत्रानभिस्नेहः तत्तत्प्राप्य शुभाशुभम् नाभिनन्दति न द्वेष्टि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता यदा संहरते चायम् कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्ज्यं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते यततो ह्यपि कौन्तेय पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथीनि हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य योक्त आसीत मत्परः वसे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः सङ्गस्तेषुपजायते सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामः कामात् क्रोधोऽभिजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशः बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति रागद्वेषवियुक्तैस्तु विषयानिन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवश्यैर्विधेयात्मा प्रसादमधिगच्छति. So we have concluded in the previous class the verse 59. So we are going to study 60 mantra, 60 chanting, verse chanting. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. Yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipaschitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. As we are in the topic, the description of enlightened master, enlightened soul, enlightened person who is a perfect human being, we are at the 60th verse, the describing. We are going to study the translation. O Kaunteya. O Kaunteya means Kunti Putra. O Kaunteya means Arjuna. Kunti Putra is Arjuna. Lord Krishna says, the turbulent senses, even a wise man, while striving, indeed forcibly carry away his mind. So, the turbulent senses, as we all know, a human being is made up of a physical body and a mind and intellect. That is the matter equipments, and added with spirit, the Atman. The spirit is the Atman plus the matter is the body, mind, intellect. Put together is you and me, the living being, the human being. So the turbulent senses. So the physical body is made up of sense organs, 5 sense organs of perception, 5 organs of action. So he is now talking about the senses. Senses means indriyas. Indriyas means the sense organs of perception and action. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin. Eyes are constantly engaged in seeing, perceiving. You are a perceiver and actor. Perceiver is the seeing, hearing with the ears, nose smells, tongue taste, skin touch. So seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. These are the sense activities. The turbulent senses. The senses are very, very powerful. Turbulent means they are very, very disturbing, very, very dominating, very, very controlling. Turbulent senses of even a wise man. Wise man means a person who is highly knowledgeable. In this context, highly intelligent. He got lot of degrees, lot of positions he held in the world. He got lot of name, fame, power, position, status. He got so many, talents. He is well placed. He got the, what is that called, standard of living. He enjoying his life. He knows what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is the sensuality, materiality, what is intelligence. Everything he knows as an information, as an intelligence, but no intellect. So even a wise man means as if he is the well-learned person, well knowledgeable in the scriptures, well shastras, well thoroughly studied. He got total clarity about his life, himself and the world. He knows everything about how to contact the world, art of right living. He knows. But the senses cannot be taken for granted. Even a wise man, while striving means while putting effort in the spiritual journey, while traveling, while pursuing the path of the self, while trying to seek the self, trying to travel in the self-realization path by practicing spiritual disciplines in day-to-day life, even a wise man striving hard in the journey of life towards the self, indeed, forcibly means as if there is by force, they pluck, the senses pluck the wise man while striving, carry away, they carry them, the person, the human being, the individual, and carry away. The more powerful than the senses is the mind. The mind is plucked by the senses, and the mind is taken away from the pursuit and take you to the sensuality, materiality. That is what today, if you carefully analyze, the whole world is completely caught up in the sensuality and materiality because of the mind is totally drawn by the senses, turbulent senses. You see an ordinary human being to the extraordinary spiritually developed so-called religious people, educated people, so-called any person of that matter, all are drawn by the senses. Senses govern the world today. Eyes controlling, ears controlling, nose controlling, tongue controlling, skin controlling. Every sense organ is controlling. Not only that, the verse Lord Krishna says, thus by controlling the human being, the mind itself is drawn, plucked forcefully to the external world of intelligences. So there is no interest in any higher values, any spiritual knowledge, any intellectual strength to grow spiritually. Now you see, the moment you say Bhagavad Gita class, there is any spiritual study, there is a growth, there nobody is interested, nobody wanted, because of the mind is plucked away from the spiritual path of higher values. The mind is strong and senses are far more stronger. Senses pluck the mind. In future, after 6-7 verses, you will see mind takes the intellect away, and thus the total destruction happens. Today, everybody is caught up in the acquisition and enjoyment because of the mind and senses. Senses govern the mind, and mind is taken over by the senses, and today whole world is caught up. Entire humanity is drawn by the senses and the mind. The Kaunteya, the turbulent senses. Even a wise man, even the well knowledgeable, very, very highly educated, so-called well-placed human being in the society, a politician, an engineer, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or any, for that matter, a spiritual man, it doesn't matter what field of occupation you belong. But if you are not having strong intellect, means you don't pursue the spiritual path, where you land up. You are in the materiality and sensuality and caught up in the acquisition and enjoyment because of the powerful senses. You can't have anything, idea, a thought of higher pursuit, a noble goal, a higher cause beyond your selfish and self-centered interest. You can't conceive, you can't pursue, you can't see, you can't feel, you can't think, because of the senses plucked the mind forcefully and planted in the sensuality, materiality, and you are lost totally. This is what the happening about the entire humanity. Same thing happened to Arjuna also. Krishna cautioning Arjuna, O Kaunteya. Kunti Putra Arjuna has the meaning of son of Kunti. There is a great devotee of Lord Krishna, is Arjuna's mother. She is the devotee of Lord Krishna, constantly remembers the pursuit of spirituality, never left the mind and the body towards the sensuality, materiality. Kunti always anchored to the higher values of life, towards the devotion, towards the God, the Supreme Self, the Atman, the Lord Krishna represents. She fixed her interest and attention in the spiritual journey. Therefore, Krishna refers to Arjuna, stand up, my dear Kaunteya, my dear Arjuna, you are the son of a Kunti. You must recognize the greatness of your mother, who is ever anchored towards the Supreme Self, the Atman, the Lord Krishna, never given any value towards the sensuality, materiality. So, the Krishna cautions Arjuna about the devastating, destroying nature of the senses, nature of the sense organs. The sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, tongue and skin, they are deadly. They drag the personality towards the sense objects. Senses are drawing the human being towards the sense objects. From that sense objects, the experiences, the mind is plucked. Your mind is also drawn and lost in the sensuality and materiality. The human senses push. So there is a pressure from within and there is a pull from outside. World pulls the human being and the senses push you out of the personality towards the world, and the mind is full of desires and it is pushed. There are two factors, senses and the mind. Is there is a push from within to go out, extroversion, and there is a pull from the world of sense objects. There is a push and pull. There is no strong intellect, and there is a natural phenomena of any ordinary human being without the understanding of higher values of knowledge. You will be automatically dragged by this sensuality and materiality, which is the vast majority caught up in this world of sensuality and suffering. So the human senses push the individual. Human senses push the individual towards the world of sense objects, and the sense objects themselves pull the individual towards the world. There is a push from within, there is a pull from without, from the world. In this constant push and pull, you are sandwiched, you are crushed, you are tormented. The turbulent senses drag you from your happiness, from your normalcy. The human senses push the individual towards the world of sense objects, and the sense objects pull the individual towards the world. Senses push and objects pull. You are torn by this push and pull. This is the current scenario of the sad plight of every human being who is not having any higher fixation. So, what is happening? Okay, I don't mind, I want to indulge, I want to live my life. What is the problem with you, sir? I am happy with my sensuality and materiality, I am enjoying thoroughly. Let the senses enjoy the sense object, let the mind also be happy about the senses and sense objects. What is wrong with them? What is nothing wrong with them? No. That is what the common man's question. But the moment you understand the deeper import, what is that? The Lord Krishna says, the moment you are drawn by this push and pull, you are lost in the world. Ultimately, they will destroy you. First point. Second thing, there is no happiness or sorrow in the objects of the world. World is a hollow, empty nothing. It's only pleasure or pain you claim from the sense objects is only imaginary. It is the agitations. The pleasure or happiness is nothing but cessation of mental agitations. There is a cessation of mental agitations which creates the happiness. There is no happiness in the world of objects and beings. A man picks up a cigarette and smokes. He claims a tremendous pleasure. Another person hates the smoke. He can't stand smoke. Cigarette being the same produces pleasure to one, pain to another. A man goes to the lawyer to divorce his wife. Another person waiting to marry the same lady. This person is asking, why are you wanting to divorce? Sir, how much time you will take? It will take 6 months. How much you cost? 5,000 rupees. Sir, I will pay you 10,000. You make it 3 months. I want to get rid of this woman. Another fellow waiting to marry the same lady. Lady being the same produces ecstasy to one, agony to another, pain to another, suffering to another, happiness to one person. The cigarette being the same produces pleasure to one, pain to another. Now the question to you is that the pleasure or pain, sorrow or happiness inherently in the object, in the person, in the being? No. If there is a pleasure or joy, content, essence inherently in the object or being, it should be experienced by both. But one person is experiencing pain, another person is experiencing pleasure. That clearly defines, indicates, points out there is no pleasure or joy in the world. It is all within you. It is all in the mind. The mind which has got a desire, it creates agitations, and you contact the object of desire and you claim to be happy when the desire is satisfied. The moment the desire is ceased from the mind, there is no more, there is no more agitations that you claim to be happy. So the happiness or pleasure or joy a human being is actually experiencing not the contact of the object but the cessation of mental agitations within the mind. So there is no happiness in the objects and beings of the world, but the senses, turbulent senses, drag the mind because there is an ignorance, and ignorance born imaginary world of objects and beings, and you think the objects and beings produce happiness and sorrow, and whole humanity is lost in this quagmire of these perceptions and actions, emotions and thoughts of the external world because of the turbulent senses, and the mind drag the push and pull, and the people are caught up in the sensuality, materiality, which is this verse is talking about. The sense organs constantly rush towards the enchanting sense objects. The eye counts, eye wants. What is that eye is looking for? Beautiful sights, sightseeing. Whole world is morning to evening. They are craving for going out of the city, out of the state. There is a beautiful landscapes. Early morning, going to the sunrise or sunset. Some people travel across the world of continents to see the sights, sightseeing, Niagara Falls, or there is the Himalayas, or some pilgrimages, some great resorts. They want to see, they want beaches, they want Maldives, so many, where Switzerland, so many things. Their eyes pushing them. Eyes are pressurizing for beautiful sights. The ear, what is that ear is always interested in? Ear is looking for pleasing sounds, nice sounds. Ear wants sound, beautiful music. There is a musical world. The whole world is soaked in great music. The pop stars, or the classical, or western, or eastern, or semi-classical. You can talk anything. Everybody's. The moment you have the music, music happening, everybody excited about, because the ears pressurizing human being to get the ecstatic music, interested in music. That is, the ears are interested in sounds. That ear is pulling the personality towards the sound arena. Similarly, the nose always desire in sweet smells. You wanted fragrance all the time. The cosmetic shops, the beautiful shops are filled with perfumes and perfumes and perfumes. Today, what is the multi-crore dollar, multiple crore business? Is the perfume business. Perfumes controlling the whole world. The moment a perfume is put, they are importing perfumes from the foreign countries. The beautiful slavery towards the nose, fragrance. People are caught up in the nose of desire for smell, fragrance. Similarly, the tongue. Tongue is anyway, everybody knows, destroying the humanity. The tongue is craving for variety tastes. Every meal you need a variety. Idli, one day dosha or puri, what do you call, dokla or chapati or bread, jam. You talk any number of varieties every day. They want variety for the tongue. So mind and senses completely caught up in the external world of sense objects. The skin wants pleasant touches. Now it is especially winter season entering. Everybody craves I want hot water. They can't stand cold water. Totally skin slavery. Skin is controlling human being today. The eyes controlling, ears controlling, nose controlling, tongue controlling, and skin is controlling human being today. Where is the human being? You can't find any human being without these senses dragging the sense objects. That is the current situation of every human being. Even the wise, knowledgeable, educated people having great background of knowledge and understanding are under the control of the senses. And you don't recognize that you are a slave to senses because you don't have an intellect to study what's happening within you. So the senses drag even a wise man with these constant demands of the sensual pleasures, sensuality. The senses become turbulent. The more you feed senses, the more they want sense enjoyments. It is like a fire. The more you eat the particular type of food, the more you want craving. That is the nature of the senses, and they become turbulent, violent. They carry away the mind, the feelings, the equipment why the human being is having. The greatest equipment is the mind, manasu. This mind supposed to be in the self, Atman, mind supposed to chant, mind supposed to remember, mind supposed to feel God, but they are feeling the world, they are feeling the senses, feeling the sense object. Oh, very good taste, I want that. Very good sight, I want to see. Very good sound, I want to hear. Very good smell, I wanted to enjoy the fragrance. Very good food, I wanted to eat. This is what the mind is doing all the time, playing tricks with you. And you are not aware what's happening within you. They carry the mind away. Senses drag the mind away from the pursuit of the self, from the pursuit of the higher, pursuit of the goal, pursuit of the cause. You are drawn to the world of extroversion and sensuality, materiality. Ultimately, you are destroying yourself. They carry away the mind. Even a learned man, learned person, highly educated person, striving on the spiritual path, working strenuously on the spiritual journey towards the God enlightenment. The mind and the senses drag the human being towards the world of sense objects. If one does not control the senses properly, if one does not control the senses properly, one can lose the control of the mind. So when you lose the control of the mind, if you don't control the senses, the mind also lost. You will become unconscious uncontrollable. Mind loses the control. You lose the control over the mind. The problem does not end there. So what does it matter if the mind is not controlled? The mind in turn carry the intellect away with it. So the only equipment which saves the human being is the buddhi, intellect. Intellect controls the mind, mind controls the senses and the body. Now the senses are so strong, they are caught up in the sense objects of the world and they drag the mind, and the mind also caught up with the demands of the senses. Eventually the time will come, the intellect also drawn and the human being is destroyed. That's what happening. You see the people who are dying every day with the coronavirus or the pandemic or the diseases. Anything anybody is suffering from, any ailment or any disease or any suffering due to physical or emotional, it is because of the sensuality and materiality. A body which is given for 100 years is worn out, torn out, completely destroyed by a span of little more years because of the sensuality, materiality and indulgence uncontrollably. The person who is eating non-stop eating, he'll die of eating. A person who is seeing with eyes, non-stop seeing, he'll die in the sightseeing. A person who is hearing music, what happened to the great people? They died of hearing the music. The pop stars, the great stars, music, great giants, they are lost and completely destroyed themselves. So the every sense organ, if you have no proper control, proper governance, the senses drag the mind and the mind is drag the intellect and you destroy yourself. People are destroying themselves. The liver packed up for the people who are alcoholic. They drink and drink, they kill themselves. Liver is gone, kidney is gone, digestion system gone, sleep gone, everything. You go by physical body, whose senses drag you. Overnight, midnight, working with the eyes, their eyes gone. So every part of your personality which is supposed to be senses, you supposed to control, but right now they are controlling you and you are lost in this quagmire of the sensuality and you are losing the intellect, thereby you will be destroyed. The problem does not end there. The mind will in turn carry the intellect away with it. When the intellect is lost, when the human being's buddhi is lost, everything is lost. Buddhinashat pranashyati. When the intellect gone, you die. That is the Bhagavad Gita is telling. Your intellect is the head, controller, governor, should control the mind and mind controls the senses. But the intellect is gone, you go. So when the intellect is lost, everything is lost. The destruction of the personality is complete. You completely destroy yourself. This verse specifies the loss of the mind only. It is not specifying the loss of the intellect. That is in due course of time, the Krishna advises, he gives a gap between the losing of the mind and losing of the intellect for a specific cause, that to show the importance of the development of intellect in human being. If you don't develop the intellect, if you don't develop and strengthen the intellect in this lifetime, the senses and the mind drawn to sensuality and materiality, and you lose yourself, and they both in turn pluck the intellect away and you destroy yourself. Therefore, this mantra is explaining the caution of how the destruction starts. The next step towards the destruction would be the loss of the intellect. So senses lost, and then mind lost, then time will come, your senses will be also lost. Therefore, you must understand the importance of the development of intellect. So, this is stated in the verse 67. Now we are studying 60 verse. 67th verse, 7 verses in between given to impart the importance of the development of intellect so that a human being can save himself. So, this is stated in the 67th instead of following. So, in this verse, mind is lost. Next verse, he can say intellect will be lost. That he did not tell because he wants us to understand the importance of the development of intellect slowly so that we will be able to save ourselves. So he given that idea only in the verse 67 instead of following the next verse. The intervening verses take up a different sequence of thought, deliberating the importance of the intellect in a human being. So, intellect development, if you want to live happily 100 years without having any suffering senses or mind, you need to strengthen your intellect and discipline your sexuality and materiality. No, it is not that sense control means sense denial. Spirituality never recommends sense denial. You are not asked to disconnect the senses from sense objects. There is no physical disconnection necessary. Sense control means understanding, regulation, moderation, control, discipline, so that your contact of sense objects with the senses will be proper for enhancing the energies of the senses and mind and the intellect, so that you will be reaching the supreme self Atman. If you deny the senses, you get frustrated, repressed, suffering. The misunderstood spiritualists and misunderstood people, they are scared of sense contacts and they are physically disconnected and they are hypocritical and they are suffering in life. And the other people, vast majority, are lost in the senses of sensuality, materiality through indulgence, and they kill and destroy themselves. By indulgence, the mind is plucked away. That's what how the mind is taken away by the senses is highlighted in this verse. The intervening. So the intellect makes a human being the chef, the war of creation, a master of this universe, master of this world, a king of this universe. Why a human being is named as a king of this universe? Because of the powerful intellect is provided to only human being. This intellect controls the life, controls the senses, controls the human being. You have an independent choice of action. The living beings are three varieties: plants, animals, and human beings. Plants have only a physical body. They have no mind, manas, no intellect, buddhi. They have only body. You see the outside, you see the tree. The tree is having only a stem and branches and the roots and the leaves. That's all. You go, you talk to the plant, you cry with the plant, you love the plant. Plant doesn't react anything. Plant never says that I hate you or I love you. Why? There is no mind. There is no intellect. Manasu buddhi is not given. It is denied to plants. They have only a sharira. Buddhi, sharira is given. The body only. Physical body is given. Whereas the animals have a body and they have a mind. They operate with the mind. They live at the level of the mind. They function in the feelings and emotions. They have a physical body, they have mind. But because they have not given intellect, they are protected by nature. Their sensual contacts with the sense objects are well disciplined by the pre-programmed, controlled, disciplined by default, computerized lifestyle they have. Therefore, if you observe the whole species of animal kingdom, all are perfect size and shape and health and wealth. There is no necessity for them to be overeating or undereating, obesity or slim and trim or weak, or there is no differences or diversity in the animal kingdom, animal planet, because they are all computerized, pre-programmed. Their eating habits, their sleeping habits, their life habits, breathing habits, their mating habits, their complete lifestyle habitat is perfectly disciplined, pre-programmed, computerized. No problems for the animal world. Human being, no two people are same, either overweight or underweight. Vast majority is obesity. Today the maximum problem in the world is obesity, because non-stop eating. Nobody is able to understand what's happening. Why? Because the human being alone is provided with the greatest equipment called intellect. He has to, nature as it were, given the freedom to take care of himself by himself. Nature left the human being not because it is heartless, not because nature doesn't love human beings. Nature loves human being more than animals, because nature provided human beings the intellect. This intellect you have to use it to develop, strengthen, to control your life activities, your sensuality, senses and mind both should be controlled, governed, policed by the strong intellect. Now there is no plan, no program anywhere in the world to understand that there is an existence of intellect and there is a strength of intellect needed, and you have to develop it and use it all the time in your life to protect yourself. There is no teaching, there is no government, there is no school, there is no university, there is no world anywhere in the world about intellect strengthening development program. Therefore, human being left high and dry without the awareness of existence of intellect. Therefore, they're drawn to this mind and senses and lost in this sensuality and materiality and totally caught up in the world of suffering and sorrow. Today, anywhere there is a stress and strain, worries and anxieties, physical, blood pressure, blood sugar, heart attack, this, every type of problem, human being alone is suffering in the world. No other creature suffering any problems. In spite of the statistics, the number of hospitals built, number of patient doctors coming from the medical colleges, number of services, nurses, everything increasing day by day. But there is no perfectness in the health of the human being, because they are all going in the backside, not attacking the source of the problem. The source of the problem is lack of development and use of the intellect, told by Lord Krishna. Swayam Narayana himself is explaining the intellect has to be strengthened and used. Without the intellect, you can't be a human being. And today there is no intellect at all in this world. And everybody is suffering because of the lack of development and use of the intellect. And here, the intellect makes a human being a masterpiece of creation, a king of the universe, become a slave to everything. Every slightest change of things, human being is suffering because of lack of strong intellect. The intellect makes a human a chef d'oeuvre of creation, a masterpiece of creation. Without the intellect, he has less power or no power at all, or ability than any mammal, any animal. But the intellect, human intellect alone puts him on the top of the rung of the ladder of creation. In the entire creation, human being is rated on the top because of the virtue of the provision of the intellect. The intellect, therefore, must be carefully preserved. So you must learn to preserve and protect and strengthen and develop the intellect all the time. If you don't use the intellect, if you don't care to develop the intellect, you are gone. You are going to be seized destroyed in this senses and mind's demands, in the extroversion of the materiality, sensuality of the sense objects outside the world will destroy you. The intellect, therefore, must be carefully preserved to safeguard the personality. What protects the human being is the intellect. You see, there are murders, there are molestations, or rapes against, crimes against women. There are so many things happening in the world. All varieties of crime or suffering of various health or financial or physical or emotional, anywhere. The only source of the all problem is lack of strengthening and development and use of the intellect. Intellect is not strong enough to understand and to govern, to preserve and protect your personality. Intellect is not there at all. Therefore, every human being is suffering. The senses are extremely powerful. Senses are extremely powerful. They are not ordinary. Eyes, we take it for granted. We don't care that what is there. Eyes, ears, nose. Eyes are there for seeing. Ears are there for hearing. Nose are there for smelling. Tongue is there for tasting. Skin is there for touching. What is there? There is nothing to be cared of. But senses, indriyas, are most strongest things in the human personality. They are very, very powerful, extremely strong, powerful. People remain unaware of their devastating nature and treat them very casually. People use the senses very casually, carelessly, lazily, irresponsibly, heedlessly. They don't care. That is the current situation of not aware of the destroying nature of the senses. Many cases, not one or two, daily happening. Fellow goes to sightseeing in the beach, gets drowned and dies. Fellow goes to the express highway, speed biking and gets destroyed. Everything is senses killing you. You are not aware that your own senses daily, any moment, you are going to be destroyed because of the powerful senses. If you are not aware of the power of the senses, you could also one among them who are getting destroyed every day. People remain unaware of their devastating nature of their senses and treat them very casually. The average person believes he can give up his sensual indulgences anytime he chooses. Everybody says, I am just addicted to alcohol, but I can give up any moment. I have full control over it. Similarly, if a fellow is smoking, I can control any moment. It's not a big deal. And overeating food, I can control. Or sightseeing, I can control. Everybody thinks that they can control the senses, but by that time will come that they are becoming slave and they are getting crushed by that habit and they're lost. This is what the Lord Krishna is cautioning. Average person believes he can give up his sensual indulgences anytime he chooses. He boasts about his capacity to do so. I have the strong capacity. He greatly boasting means show off. I can control any moment. This verse means to wake up such deluded people to reality. People who are deluded, people are confused, people are misunderstood, people are ignorant, people are not aware of the deadly senses, how dangerous they are. They are not aware of that reality, how the senses control. The mythological portion of the Hindu scriptures gives an episode of to demonstrate this truth. A great sage in this, the great sage Vishwamitra. See, Vishwamitra is a great saint, great sage. Vishwamitra is episode is given to communicate the deadly nature of the senses, how the senses are danger, to communicate that there is a story by Vishwamitra who was meditating on the Brahman in the deep jungle, whereas Manaka, the heavenly goddess, heavenly temptress, the heavenly lady, the Manaka temptress, was sent to entice him with her dance. So Manaka came to disturb the meditation of the sage Vishwamitra. Even after years and years of severe austerity, Vishwamitra is known for the enlightened, or almost is reached the enlightenment. He is a highly advanced spiritual seeker, spiritual developed personality. Sage is a Maharishi meditating on in the jungle. The Manaka sent by Indra to tempt. Even after years of severe austerity, tapassu, of so many years of tapassu, he fell under her enchantment and succumbed to her charms. So it seems in the story, he became slave and he got disturbed by Manaka. It is only a symbolic a story. We should not be taking these stories literally and as if they have happened and the Vishwamitra lost his spirituality. It should not be taken like that. Even the great sage of high spiritual knowledge and wisdom could fall a trap into temptations of the senses. The senses are so powerful. So you should not treat them casually, carelessly. That is the idea we should take it from this episode. So he fell under the enchantment and succumbed to her charms. In reality, the Vishwamitra was spiritually fortified enough. He got enough intellect, enough strength to control his mind and his senses. To resist worldly temptations, he got enough intellectual caliber, Vishwamitra. The choice of such great sage has been taken in this story, deliberately highlighting the devastating power of these senses. So senses are deadly. Sense objects, they will drag the senses to sense objects and drag the mind, and you will be succumbed to their devastating nature and you will be caught up in that and you suffer. It consciously sacrifices the reputation of an eminent sage. Even the great sage has been used in the story to communicate the great message, even though the spiritually great masters could fall if they are not capable, if they are not careful about the senses and their power. Deliberately highlights the devastating power of the senses. It consciously sacrifices. So it sacrifices the great tapasvi. Vishwamitra is a tapasvi who taught the enlightenment, who taught the technique of life and living Vedanta to 4 brothers of Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrugna, entire Ramayana. Vishwamitra is the teacher for them. Such a great Vishwamitra himself fell into the prey, victim of the senses by the Manaka temptress sent by Indra. It is not literally true, but it is communicating the great message for us to implement this knowledge of Vedanta, knowledge of strong intellect to regulate, control, moderate the senses and their indulgences. You must be always watch out, or else the senses may take you for a ride and you will destroy yourself. So it consciously sacrifices the reputation of an eminent sage for the important purpose of educating people on the strength of the senses. How the deadly are the senses, Indriyas. Everybody takes for granted without knowing the depth and power of the senses. If such a great ascetic, great sage or Vishwamitra of caliber can fall so easily, how careful you and me must be, an average person, how much careful we must be in terms of sensual indulgences. If such a great ascetic can fall in easy prey, how careful must the average person be with sensual temptations? There is another great episode Adi Shankaracharya gives in the Viveka Chodamani, emphasizes the same truth in his book Viveka Chodamani. He gives examples of 5 different species, 5 creatures which get destroyed because of their sensual weakness, of their sensual pleasures. A moth is a butterfly which has a weakness for light, eyesight. Moth is weakness. It embraces the flame. You see all the time the bulbs, around the bulbs the insects gets burnt and destroying every day because of weakness for the eyes. Similarly, a fish has a weakness for the tongue. So fish is all the time gobbling, and the hunter bait, he will put the bait and they get caught in the hunter. The angler they'll put and they catch the fish with the angle. So that you see all the time. The Fevicol example, they put this thing and they put the Fevicol for nowadays, they put the advertisement also. So this is a fish weakness for the tongue. Similarly, a deer, spotted deer in the jungle has a weakness for the ears. It hears the beating of the drums by the hunters. They beat the drums. They are actually hiding by listening to the drums. They came out, they are confused. The hunter gets caught by the hunter's snare and dies. It is their hands. In their hands, they die. An elephant is caught up in a pit because it has a weakness for skin. And the mating season, the elephant go mad and goes here and there, and they will make a big pit, a big trench, and they cover the leaves, and the elephant gets caught in the trench and then gets destroyed by the hunters. A bee, so honeybee like bees enters deep into the certain flowers, crevices inside the flowers for the honey, and gets trapped and gets destroyed because flower closes. So human beings, each creature, be moth, deer, elephant, and fish, all are 5 varieties have one sense organ weakness, they get killed. Human being having weakness for all senses. Eyes has weakness, ears have weakness, nose has weakness, tongue is weakness, skin is weakness. What are the chances for survival? Question yourself how much you are aware of the deadly nature of senses, and keep the vigilancy of the sensual indulgences. Practice every day. Spiritual practice is not a post-retirement pastime. It is a full-time awareness of the reality, full-time awareness of the sensuality, materiality, and be aware of their deadly nature of senses and gets control over them. Human beings suffer from the weakness of all 5 senses. This beautiful portrayal of Shankaracharya illustrates the helplessness of human beings and cautions them against their misuse of senses. You must use them for higher cause, not abuse them, misuse them, and destroy yourself. Instead of reaching the Supreme Self, the senses are blessing, provided you have to regulate, moderate, and control them with the powerful intellect, not to get lost in sensual indulgences and suffer. We will continue in the next class. Thank you very much. Hari Om.